Modernists were delighted by her success in the Cardiff competition, but things quickly turned sour when the media sought the view of the general public.
More than 3,500 people rang, and nearly 90% of that straw poll booed the design off stage.
If an architect who's come through an open international competition has then competed in a second stage against 4 of the world's leading architects and has still won through, is going to be told, well, that doesn't really matter because we're now going to put your design to a whole series of other tests, whether the man in the street likes it, whatever that means, on the basis of having a couple of images flashed in front of him on TV, then I think this is really going to bring discredit to competitions. What the Opera House Trust asked of the competing architects was to produce a striking contemporary design, and that's what they've got.
Hadid's design houses the Welsh National Opera's rehearsal spaces, dressing rooms and offices in a necklace-like glass structure zigzagging dramatically around the auditorium.
Zaha Hadid is very often portrayed as some kind of wild-eyed fanatic. A dyed-in-the-wood modernist who is determined to build unbuildable avant-garde experiments. It's extraordinary how in Cardiff she's actually produced what is a remarkably, in some ways, conservative scheme. It's not unbuildable, it's actually based on 2 very shrewd ideas. The first is that you actually do need some kind of urban context for what is right now a wasteland. There's nothing around the site of the Opera House right now. So Zaha's scheme suggests building a building which will respect what might one day be the streetscape around it. So it's actually building fabric. It's the kind of first seed in turning the bay into part of a real city. But of course, at the same time, it also says opera houses need to be something special. They are landmarks, they're a celebration of our culture, of music and so on. And so she's very cleverly managed to pull off the trick of making something which is both a piece of city and a landmark.
The best thing that could possibly happen is that the wonderful design that's been produced by Zaha Hadid is endorsed firmly by the promoters of the competition. Its beauty and its potential explained properly with confidence to those people who are going to be interested and use this building, and that its technical and detailed development is carried through with the best endorsement and great enthusiasm by the people of Wales.
Hostility, not enthusiasm, has continued to characterise the public's attitude. But how far was the backlash orchestrated by the media that reported it?
There was an assumption that because the whole Cardiff Bay development had been such a public affair, and that as being seen to be such a real stimulus, not just only to South Wales but to the whole country, that the icon of the Bay, which is going to be the National Opera House, should have as much discussion and views from so many people as possible. And then it just came down to a small group of people saying, sorry, we know better. You know, a bit of intellectual stuff saying, we know better, you're going to have the one we decide. It horrified us, and obviously from the reaction of our readers, it horrified a lot of people in Wales too.
I think the trouble in this case is that the judges had their own agenda. They felt that a Zaha Hadid building ought to go up in Britain, and this thing has been foisted on Cardiff, and Cardiff's the victim of fashionable architectural politics, and this is a great shame.
Looks like a bunch of shoeboxes put together.
I just can't make head or tail of where it starts or where it finishes.
It's not attractive to me. No, I don't like that.
I think the user public has a contribution to make, and that happens in any piece of architecture, any design. The user is the first person to be consulted, and you know, from that you establish the brief. That's important, obviously, the way the building is going to work and how it's going to do its job. But as far as asking the man or woman in the street, you know, do you think this is what we should build or not? I think that's a nonsense.
People in Wales are not ignorant peasants.
Nicoletti.
That those who take the decision have to weigh up a number of factors. And public opinion is a factor, it's an important factor. They've got to listen to what public opinion is, but at the end of the day, they've got to go back and ask, does it work? can it be built? Can it be built to cost? Will it meet our requirements? And if the answer to those fundamentals is no, then it's no good saying, oh, we will build it because everyone says it's lovely.
They've chosen a winning design, and I think they should stick by it. They should defend it, they should support it. They should not keep on saying, well, we can pick something else, because it would make it farcical.
The architect was chosen, Zaha Hadid in this case, on the basis of excellent advice, thorough work going back many months. The promoters ought to be in a position to defend that selection. They should be proud of it. They should want it to happen. They should fight for it. They shouldn't withdraw at the earliest sound of opposition. I can't believe that they've made the mistake of using public opinion to protect themselves from their own loss of nerve.
Well, in an ideal world, you want the public to be behind a big project, especially one which is going to have some national significance. But I think it's more important in the case of the Cardiff Opera House for the public to be behind the idea of having an opera house in the docks as part of the regeneration of the city. And the question of the detailed design is something really that only future generations can judge. I mean, generally speaking, the buildings we most admire now have been given very mixed receptions at the time of their construction.
It is not the case that great buildings are always unpopular. This tired old argument is put forward time and time again as a sort of self-justifying principle that St Paul's was unpopular when built. Rubbish. That Nash's terraces are unpopular when built. Rubbish. Many great buildings have been popular.